Hello, good morning. Welcome to Joy News Desk. We're coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlemle. Coming up this morning, NPP Majority Leader Osei Mensah Bonsu resigns amid speculations of plot. Deputy Afenyo-Markin to assume NPP caucus leadership. We have more as Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs says he was pushed out.
I think from the series of events and all our discussion right from Monday to this point, I think he was pushed.
Ghana's parliament is set to pass the controversial anti-LGBTQ bill after nearly 3 years of the bill being laid in the House. Plus, the latest data from the 2023 annual household income and expenditure reveals 14.7% of people aged between 15 and 35 were unemployed in the third quarter of 2023. And in the second part of Joy News' feature focusing on the struggles of the National Health Insurance Scheme, we turn our attention to the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital, where the underfunded scheme has left many patients stranded at the hospital premises. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. We'll bring you more in Joy News Desk. Many thanks for choosing us. Long-standing Majority Leader of Parliament, Osei Mensah Bonsu, has tendered his resignation amidst controversy, allegations of internal strife, and an alleged plot to oust him from his leadership position swelled for days, leading to his decision to step down. All eyes turned towards Afenyo-Markin, his deputy, to lead the NPP caucus in the House. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kyei Asante has been explaining what really happened.
In this meeting, the conversation about a change of leadership came up, and Osei Mensah Bonsu told the president in a meeting in the front of all 137 of his colleagues that he thought that it is time to make way for some fresh energy to come in. That is exactly what this source is telling me. And a member of parliament who was in this meeting telling me that Osei Mensah Bonsu says he's worried of some of the issues that have come up so far, the kind of rancor debate that have come up around this potential change in leadership, and that he believes that he has to step aside to make way so that these things do not degenerate into anything. And so ordinarily, this was a meeting that was expected to last a little bit long in terms of the issues that were coming up. This was a meeting that was supposed to last long, but this meeting just lasted a few minutes because the key issue that was expected to be discussed was Osei Mensah Bonsu. And this is a man that was clearly now telling the president that I'm willing to go so that the party can now select someone else for this to happen. And so congratulations, Mercedes, indeed have started flying in now. And so the party is expected to work on something this very evening. And then as soon as sitting starts tomorrow, they can go in there with a communication to the Speaker of Parliament to announce to the public that the Majority Leader, Osei Mensah Bonsu, as we know, has resigned. And so the party has now nominated a new person to take over in his stead. It means the proposals that were expected to be discussed at the National Council and the National Executive Committee meeting this Monday will now come into fruition. We expect that the Majority Leader will now be Afenyo-Markin. His deputy will be his Chief Whip, Frank Anodompreh. Habib Idrisu will rise up to become the Chief Whip. Then the Member of Parliament for Asokwa, Patricia PJ, will become the first Deputy Whip. And then Alex Sete will follow in as the second Deputy Whip. So these changes we know now has been confirmed because of the Majority Leader's announcement to the president in this meeting today that he has decided that he has stepped out. And Evans, in a minute just gone by, the Bawumia campaign has now just released the new picture, the statement from the Bawumia campaign signed by Miracles Dennis Abuaji, announcing the formation of the manifesto committee to be chaired by Osei Mensah Bonsu. His deputy will be Kojo Oponkroma, and a number of other people. And this was some of the assignment he had been penciled down.
Executive Director of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Rashid Rahman, says Osei Mensah Bonsu was pushed out of his seat as Majority Leader, adding even if the party agreed that it needed fresh faces at the leadership front, it could have adopted a better approach.
We all saw this coming, and the question is, was he pushed or did he jump? And I think from the series of events and all our discussion right from Monday to this point, I think he was pushed. And I don't know whether this is the best way to encourage all of us to dedicate ourselves to public service. True, the party, has every right to decide, first of all, who represents them in an election, and then eventually who represents them in parliament, and so on and so forth. But I think we all have a stake in the governance of this country, and more so members of parliament, particularly people like the leader who has devoted so many years, the current longest serving member of parliament and so on. I don't know whether the end should be a push. So for me, I think this is a little bit disturbing for me. Those who make the argument that, manifesto committee, he needs to have time and so on. How about the others who are with him, who are ministers and members of parliament at the same time? And then on other committees, we see so many ministers, members of parliament. So really, we are just seeing a replay of maybe the situation that we saw with the NDC. And the honorable leader has joined his friend, Ray Drisu, in maybe suffering the same fate in the hands of their political parties.
Dr. Rashid Rahman is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. I've been joined by Professor John Osei, who is a governance expert and a CDD Fellow in Governance. Grateful for your time, Prof. Let me gauge your mood on what has happened. Osei Mensah has been here for quite some time now. In fact, many, including the President, have acknowledged his good work in Parliament over the period. Why would any party want to change leader of a winning team? Do you know?
Good morning and thank you. So I don't. Whatever occasioned this change, I think the only people, the people who actually sort of made the decision or were part of the process that led to this change are the only ones who can really explain and provide the rationale and the basis for this change. I think it was maybe late last week or earlier on this week, though, there had been speculation in the public spaces that such a change was coming. But then, if I recall, there was a press conference held by the majority caucus that sort of pushed back and categorically said no changes were imminent in the leadership, etc., etc. So then, at least for someone like me, that allayed sort of some of those speculations and the concerns that, well, why would this be done at this hour, in the life of the parliament that is left, and particularly in a term for him that he's not returning to parliament. So for 24 hours later, to read the news that that speculation was actually had some basis, truth to it, was quite both surprising. The turnaround too was a bit curious. But I don't know why that would happen at this time. I know that part of or at least part of what we're hearing is because of his work as chair of the Manifesto Committee for 2024. But I don't see how one cannot still be majority leader and still play that role, because I'm sure there are others who will be playing other substantive roles in the lead up to the 2016 election for the party, but are still holding whatever positions that they are holding in the party. So
for instance, his deputy, who is supposed to be deputy chair of the Manifesto Committee, Opon Kroma, who is not a substantive minister. So definitely, that corroborates your points.
Precisely. That if others can hold, positions of substance, in government, whether legislatively or whether in the executive branch, but still be able to do party work as they prepare for the 2024 elections, then makes it, a little odd that that would be the reason why he can no longer serve as majority leader. I mean, he's really been the face of the party in parliament, whether they've been in the majority or whether they've been in the minority. He's really been a household name in parliament, for not even just for the party, but parliament as an institution. So it's quite interesting, and maybe someday we would get the full story of what occasioned the change.
And many say he was pushed to resign and, did not do so willingly. Yes, there are some who feel it's about time the party made amendment and put fresh faces at the front line for the majority. Question many ask, if that is the case, why change only Osei Mensah Bonsu and leave his deputies, chief whips, and the rest? In fact, his deputy is supposed to take over from him. Remember, when the NDC felt the need to do so, they did a total overhaul of the leadership.
Yes, and the other thing too is, again, I don't know the backstory and the inside story, but Honorable Chairman Bonsu, at least from what we've seen in our public spaces, has been a strong advocate for the party, for the president's agenda in Parliament. Even on some of the really tough, controversial issues like the e-levy, the passage of, I think it was either 2021 or 2022 budget, and all of that commotion. He's really been at the forefront of ensuring that the party's agenda gets through a very difficult parliament that is evenly divided. And so I'm not sure why then, what would be the basis for him, quote unquote, being pushed out, unless there's something else internally that those of us, outside of the party are not privy to. And then you can say maybe perhaps there was some major disagreements, etc., that occasioned that. But from everything that he's done, I haven't seen him being, at least publicly, being antagonistic to the party's interests and the party's agenda in Parliament. So it's a bit baffling, but like I said, probably there is, more to why this change has happened. And just like you rightly said, if you need new faces for the party leadership in Parliament, why just the majority leader? And why now? The life of this Parliament is almost over. You can wait and inject new life and new faces, in the next Parliament.
So how positively or negatively will this impact the NPP in terms of their work in Parliament, considering the vast experience Osei Mensah Bonsu brings to bear?
I don't think it would impact the work negatively, at least from what I've picked up from him. I don't think he would put the party's interest at risk. At the same time, in the next couple of months, I'm not sure there is going to be any major pieces of legislation that would have to make its way through Parliament that may, that can be torpedoed because you don't have the backing or otherwise of the Honorable Chairman. But in terms of its work in Parliament, the party's agenda, I don't think this is going to impact it negatively. Honorable Chairman doesn't strike me as a person who would deliberately undermine the party's agenda, in Parliament because he's no longer majority leader. I don't envisage him doing that.
This has a tendency of actually dividing the caucus, if you like, because following this conversation, we're told that this issue was first brought to NEC meeting by some members of the NEC, members of the NPP caucus. But of course, if you heard the first Deputy Speaker, he definitely is not in for this. There are some who agree with the first Deputy Speaker. There are issues of the party that has influence on the leadership of the party, which the NPP caucus say, no, we don't want the party to choose our leadership for us. We want to do it ourselves. So certainly, this is going to create some kind of division. Again, when the NDC did this, in fact, they did it while the parliament was on recess. That kind of offered them some time to actually mend some of these gaps. I mean, how is all of this going to pan in Parliament from where you sit?
You raise a very good point, which is the point about unity, and particularly in an election year, you can't afford not to have quote unquote a united party going into the election, and so for me, the decision has been made. So that cannot be undone. I think the biggest challenge is how you manage the post-decision issues that may arise. And for me, this is where leadership also comes into play. How you smoothing whatever, differences that may arise, whatever post-decision grievances that may come up. Because again, as I said, I'm not sure what major issues will be coming through Parliament the next 9-10 months, but you don't want any issues that may come up not to have a united party behind it, because there are still lingering grievances over this issue. So I think for me, this is where both the new leadership in Parliament, the new majority leader and the caucus, how they treat the Honorable Kyei Bonsu post this decision, and then how those outside of the leadership outside of Parliament, the party leadership itself, and other key figures in the party, how they maintain a cordial, respectful relationship with him. I think all of those things would help to ensure that this doesn't sort of drag on beyond any reasonable amount of time, because the focus is needed to, on not just parliamentary work, but also the important work of doing the party manifesto and getting it done and ensuring that the party is behind whatever vision that would be projected in the manifesto.
All right, we'll see. We'll see how this goes, and we'll see how that will impact positively or negatively on the party for taking such critical decision. I'm grateful for your time, Dr. John Osei.
My pleasure.
Of course, the election headquarters will be monitoring everything and bring to you, our viewers. Meanwhile, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin has ruled that the caucuses in Parliament have no right by themselves to change their leadership, and that it is the mother party which has to lead the process. As rumors swell of the potential removal of Osei Mensah Bonsu as majority leader to be replaced by Afenyo-Markin, First Deputy Speaker Joseph Osei, and other NPP MPs who disagree with the decision said the party cannot change their leadership, but interpreting the standing orders in this matter, Speaker of Parliament insisted the view is wrong and the party is in charge.
I have heard, I have listened, and I know that the parties are having problem with this new definition of the leaders. That is only where this confusion is coming from. The old order referred to party or parties, but this new one is not referring to the party but caucuses. The old order defined the majority leader to mean a member of parliament designated by the party or parties holding majority of the seats in the House as their recognized leader in the House. Now, this new order says majority leader means a member of parliament designated by the majority caucus as their leader in the House. Designate means appoint. Now, the same standing orders talks about the majority caucus, and it says majority caucus means the members of the party or parties that have the largest number of seats in the House. I really don't see the difference.
But First Deputy Speaker Osei also disagrees.
I thought it was just a matter that was said in jest, but you appear to have taken a position and offering a beautiful interpretation of yours. Very welcome, very beautiful. The Speaker, it would appear to me that in interpreting the parliamentary portion, we haven't taken a look at the various wings of the other parties. If you take my party, the NPP, for example, we have what we call the women's wing, the youth wing. When it comes to selecting leaders of the youth wing, the party says, the youth, you go and decide, and they select their leaders. When it comes to the women's wing, they say, women, you go and decide, and they select their leaders. So I am not aware of any parliament where anybody outside parliament selects leaders for the parliament. I think in interpreting the standing orders and the constitution, this group, the parliamentary group, must be recognized as a wing of the party which can and must take decisions regarding its leadership. It doesn't mean that the party has no role. The wing, the parliamentary wing, is a wing of the party. And in deciding who will lead them, I think it should be left to the party, the parliamentary wing of the party.
Let's stick with Parliament because the House is set to pass a controversial anti-LGBTQ bill after nearly 3 years of the bill being laid in the House. This was after Deputy Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin withdrew all amendments proposed. The bill was sponsored by 8 private MPs led by Ningo Prampram MP Sam George. The bill was expected to be passed last week but was blocked by the Deputy Majority Leader, who proposed several new amendments. When the House started the second consideration of the bill on Wednesday, Afenyo-Markin, who had proposed those amendments, was nowhere to be found. The minority and the Speaker interpreted this as an effort to frustrate the passage.
Truly, he was interested in moving this amendment. It was advertised that it would be taken yesterday and today. And we all agreed that yesterday that this was going to be done today. Because yesterday we were making effort to get it done. So if it's absent and we use that as an excuse that because it's not around, we should leave it, then Mr. Speaker, we are rather facilitating the frustration that are being made to frustrate the passage of this bill.
And there is an attempt by some group of people to forestall or prevent the bill being passed. And we see it as a sabotage and we see it as an intention attitude. Mr. Speaker, this morning we agreed that we were going to meet with one of the sponsors of the amendment, Honorable Deputy Majority Leader.
If the person is not there to move the motion, that is it. It's lost, and we move on.
Listen to Majority Leader, who came later with a new proposal.
Permit me to brief you on an intervening action by me. Yesterday, I did indicate on the floor that I intend to engage the sponsors for us to get deeper into some consensus on the amendments I proposed, largely on non-custodial sentence for aspects of the bill. Suffice to state that, in principle, I am with them on the objects of the bill. And materially, major parts of the bill, we are adding them on same. Mr. Speaker, I have accordingly followed up, engaged the minority leader, because yesterday the minority front bench indicated that any such engagement with the sponsors must first start with the leave of the leadership, which I felt it was right. I did indicate to him that I would write formally to him to inform him of the steps I intend taking. I also spoke to the Minority Chief Whip and few of the sponsors. Mr. Speaker, I have since delivered the letter to the Minority Leader's office, and I brought in a copy, which copy is with him now. I have also delivered to your good office the original of communication to you, indicating the steps I believe if we take as a house, we will be able to deal with these minor parts of the bill. Again, Mr. Speaker, the Attorney General is also his receipt of my letter. And basically, I have indicated that it will be proper for him to sit with us, especially as the non-custodial sentencing regime being introduced by them is founded in my amendment. It's better we have a fuller perspective. Mr. Speaker, I need to emphasize respectfully that no attempt whatsoever is being made by me to stall this all-important bill. By way of emphasis, I have proposed in the letter that the two flag bearers for the 2024 elections be engaged by the sponsors and my good self.
The Speaker then gave his ruling.
You are taking advantage of my grace by abusing the practice and procedure of this House. There must always be a rule to go by. We are not at the referral of the bill to a committee for consideration. We passed that. We've done the second reading, gone through all the principles and policies. We've done the consideration stage. Now, you called on the House to do second consideration stage on some clauses of the bill. We now cannot go back to stakeholder engagements and all those things. There is no such rule in our practice. So you are completely out of order. Please, actions speak louder than words. Take note of that. Actions speak louder than words. It's not a matter of just getting out and saying, I'm not opposed to the bill. I'm in complete support of the bill. Meanwhile, your actions are speaking differently from the words you are using. Please, this House must continue to consider and do what it is authorized to do. After that, anybody else can decide on what to do. I can no longer extend this grace for a delay in the processing of this bill. We must move on. Clause 6.
Away from Parliament to some health issues. In the second part of Joy News' feature, focusing on the struggles of the National Health Insurance Scheme, we turn our attention to the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital, where the underfunded scheme has left many patients stranded at the hospital premises. The scheme has over the years served as a good intervention, but there have been instances where NHIS subscribers purchase medicine that should be covered under the scheme. My colleague Clinton Yaboa has today's feature.
We have also extended NHIS coverage.
This is the Vice President, Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, confirming over 61% increase in NHIS registration numbers since 2017. But do these numbers mean anything at all, especially with the level of quality of services being provided in various hospitals across the country? Outside of the imposing gates of the accident and emergency unit of the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital and the waiting room of the KNUST Hospital, a restless crowd gather with their faces imprinted with worry and desperation. These are not just visitors earnestly waiting for good news concerning their sick relatives, but patients and family members perturbed with medical bills they cannot foot. Gifty Boache almost shed a tear talking about her sick mother. She has spent days at the hospital, banking hopes on the National Health Insurance Scheme, which she describes as stale.
Insurance no and say we niskapa na obi bi yare na obi bi wu a eno an se woda ho a wo me ba ha pa na mbe hu se enye tim sa Ghana ayedin wonni bi pa wonni se wonni bi a obi bi wu no an se wo wu.
The scheme has become stale. Now if you do not have money, you won't receive quality health care. Why? We have to pay for almost all the services received.
We saw bear the Mawane, the Maubum. Eko, baby, I a toilet, a jiska, baby, I Uko senior my jiska. Tessa Bibia, O Pake or car cry a jihuska. Yalena, ya dini pana bana pakeka, a jihuska. A broso.
There have been several complaints about the quality of NHIS service provided by some health facilities across the Ashanti region. Some individuals are reporting long delays in receiving treatment due to not having a health insurance card. They disclose instances of lack of essential medication due to inadequate coverage of expenses. These required subscribers to purchase medicines that they expected should be covered under the scheme.
Look at the number of drugs they have prescribed for me. Why would we be buying all sorts of drugs if it's working? They took 20 CDs before giving me a bed in the ward here in Kumasi South Hospital.
Without receipt. To me, when they cover me, Masa making it's not and a Bahano number 6 o'clock. A Bonaju 1 o'clock and Pama, Mammy, Albadaso, a Lucrampono, the Tiesca.
I brought my mother, but we had to pay a bribe of 100 Ghana cedis before getting a bed. I have bought all sorts of drugs for 2,000 Ghana cedis.
Health insurance health insurance and yes, I said, no, which your man in and yet more has health insurance, necessary yet more has because you know, to do almost 50 Monday in payment, but to do a 2,000.
For these aggrieved individuals, the struggling National Health Insurance Scheme is not just a health administrative obstacle, but a point of evidence of poor health systems and the inflicting reality of the poor. This is Samuel Tay Wayu.
And health insurance cover. And a card. I said,
the ones that are given free are not expensive, but the expensive ones I have to buy. This is my card, and I don't see any need.
Because health insurance been the see me by near cover crown to movie and anyway, or much or drama may be 7 cotton. I over 33,000. We never could health insurance to uncover.
According to the 2023 medicine list of the National Health Insurance, appraised by a specialist group, the currently reviewed medicines list contains a total of 548 formulations. Childhood immunizations, tuberculosis, HIV/AIDS, and mental health care are exempted from the scheme. The document disclosed that executive management of the NHIA has directed and approved a 20% increase in the prices of medicines as a stopgap measure to mitigate the recent increases in prices of medicines on the open market. A health official who pleaded anonymity explains the hospitals are compelled to top up prices of drugs and medical consumables due to price disparities in the open market price and the bench price covered by the NHIS. The situation seemingly grants profit-seeking hospitals a chance to charge patients more than required as top-ups.
Insurance has its own pricing for each drug. If that is not the price that the hospital gets on the market, that means the patient has to pay for the extra amount. Because insurance price is usually so low that you go to the market for the equipment that you need for the procedure, and it will be way above the price the insurance is going to pay. So you have to add the difference for the patient to pay. Some hospitals actually add extra for profits.
He further disclosed underfunding of several hospitals and bureaucratic hurdles of NHIS medicine administering guidelines are engulfing several facilities.
When they list the drugs, it means you have to stick to what they've said. Insurance sometimes they will reject it entirely and flag it as wrong, so they won't pay because they have specific treatment guides that you have to follow. If you go out of that, they have so many rules, so the hospitals would have to find ways and means to make up for all of that. Insurance is a stickler for rules.
Efforts to reach the Ashanti Regional Health Insurance Office have proven unsuccessful. But health officials are proposing an increase in premium drugs covered by the NHIS.
I believe funds to facilities should be released on time for them to be able to get the needed consumables for work. I also think that premium should be increased for especially those who can afford, those in the formal sector whose deductions are made straight from their SNP contributions.
Universal health coverage in Ghana says that all persons should and must receive timely access to health care. It is then apparent that a national entity such as the National Health Insurance accrues some attention to the struggling portions in order to improve service and ensure that we achieve the universal health coverage targets. Reporting for Joy News, my name is Clinton Yeboah.
Back here in Accra, latest data from the 2023 annual household income and expenditure has revealed that 14.7% of people aged 15 to 35 were unemployed in the third quarter of 2023. The survey also revealed more than 400,000 people entered the labor force between the first and third quarters of 2023. However, more than 30% of people in that bracket remained unemployed, with over 60% of them gaining employment. Let's break the figures down further, and on your screens you will see that the first to third quarters of 2023, you will see how it has been. In 2022, it was 13.30%. It's been on an upward trajectory till 2022 quarter 4, and then it came to 11.30%. Now it went up in quarter 1 of 2023, stayed up there in quarter 2 of 2023, and still up there, even though it's reduced from 14.60%, it's still at 14.7% at quarter 3 of 2023. Now, this is the breakdown. That's the average unemployment rate. So quarter 1 to quarter 3 of 2022, it stood at 13.63%. Quarter 1 to quarter 3 of 2023, it stood at 14.73%. The increment has been 1.10%. Now, this is the rates by sex, the unemployment rates by sex, and this is how it shows on the scale. If you look at quarter 1 of 2022, you will see that the female unemployment went up to 15.90, whilst the male unemployment was at 10.20%. Same if you look at 2022 quarter 2, female unemployment was up 15.20 against 12.40. Look at quarter 3 of 2022, female unemployment was still up. It's only quarter 4 of 2022 where it dropped to 12 from 16.60 to 12.30% for females, but was still higher than the male unemployment, which is 10.10%, and it's being on that trajectory. In 2023, nothing has really changed. You look at quarter one, look at quarter two, look at quarter three, female unemployment still is up there, 18.20% for 2023, quarter one, 17.50%, it reduced slightly in quarter two, now 17.7% in quarter three, it's reduced slightly, but male unemployment stayed on the same level, 10.80 quarter one, 10.90 quarter two, 10.90 quarter three. So you can see that there hasn't been much improvement in the male unemployment. There's been some slight improvement in female unemployment. Let's look at the regional breakdown, 2023 quarter three. And you can see Greater Accra is on the high, 25.70. The lowest is Bono East, 4.60. That's the regional breakdown for you. You can get more of the details of that statistics on myjoyonline.com. But we can now hear from the government statistician, Professor Samboleni.
So in terms of what we've done, as I indicated, this is a quarterly panel survey. It's nationally representative, regionally representative, and also the representative for our urban rural classification. The basis, the sampling frame for the 10,800 that we got was from the 2021 population and housing census. Let's keep in mind, let's leave here with not the population of Ghana, which is in excess of 31 million persons, but the population of only those 15 years and older, which is around 19 million. That is the denominator for the conversation. And also the reference period for this conversation is 7 days preceding the day of the interview. So questions around unemployment, we asked, in the last 7 days, did you work? So that is the reference period for the conversation. We have been successful in maintaining a good response rate across the last 4 quarters, that is from the last quarter of 2022 to the third quarter of 2023. We started replacement in the third quarter of 2023. That is why you see the number of households increasing between the second quarter of 2023 and the third quarter of 2023. So as I indicated, the findings are put into 3 broad categories. I'm going to start with the findings on the labor force characteristics. So the first thing we share with you is, think about the constituents of the labor force status. We distinguish between the constituents of the labor force status and the labor force. The labor force, as we indicated, consists of the 2 of the statuses, that is employed and unemployed. The labor force status consists of 3 categories: the employed, unemployed, and those outside the labor force, but 15 years and older. So across the last 7 quarters, that is between the first quarter of 2022 and the third quarter of 2023, we see that we have reduced the persons outside the labor force from 4.95 million to 4.51 million persons. Because this is a set, once people are leaving the labor, are moving out of outside the labor force, they should find their way in either the employment status or the unemployment status. So the 440 persons that in the first 3 quarters of 2023 exited the outside the labor force, over 60% of them, precisely about 250,000 of them, went into the employed status, and the remaining into the unemployed status. So from these 3 constituents point of view, we see a reduction in outside the labor force of persons, approximately 440,000 persons. And because this is a set of 3 categories of people, you need to find where they are going to.
Let's take a break on Johnny's desk. We'll be back with business.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Government is working to host all its external data locally. This is to reduce cost and promote growth in the digital space. Minister of Communications and Digitalization, Osei Kufu, made the disclosure to Joy Business after addressing a workshop in Accra.
The validation workshop by Smart Africa and the National Information Technology Agency, NITA, is aimed at getting stakeholders' input for the enhanced regulatory framework for cloud and data centers in Ghana. According to the Minister of Communications and Digitalization, Osei Kufu, this framework will promote the country to become the preferred choice for hosting African data. She believes hosting a localized data center will support job creation in the digital space.
One key thing that we want to promote with this is localization of the data in our country. We produce that data. It must be stored here. We don't have anything against the Amazon cloud services and the big cloud service operators. It's fine. Let them come and build data centers here and host Africa's data on the continent because it's expensive. And we're paying twice to host the data on other cloud services, pay for the management of that data, and pay to retrieve it for our use. It doesn't make any sense.
Director of Digital Infrastructure Skills and Empowerment at Smart Africa, Thelma Efuakwe, is optimistic that having a harmonized regulation system for data and cloud will boost investor confidence on the continent.
So that investors are able to take advantage of a 1.3 billion market rather than, in the case of Ghana, a 30 million market. And so the workshop here today is to help Ghana as one of the first countries to create a regulation around data centers and cloud. That will help foster foreign direct investment, but also allow a thriving of the digital economy. It will also allow us and help us to be able to store data for Africa in Africa.
Government is therefore embarking on skills training for young entrepreneurs to take advantage of the growing digital space.
Now, Anglo-Gold Ashanti Obuasi Mine is prioritizing the safety and security of residents in its host communities after investing more than 2 million Ghana cedis into the construction of a police divisional headquarters in Obuasi. The mining company has handed over the modern police facility located in BDM to the Ghana Police Service to aid in reducing crime rates in Obuasi. The project is part of other initiatives outlined under the company's 10-year plan to boost economic and social development in the gold mining hub of Ghana. Here's more in this report.
Has in the last decade recorded heightened incidents of crime and violence. The police in the area reports the numbers have in recent years seen a marginal dip. In strengthening the capacity of security institutions in Obuasi and surrounding communities, Anglo-Gold Ashanti Obuasi Mine has commissioned a new police divisional headquarters for the mining community. The facility, worth over 2 million Ghana cedis, houses interrogation rooms, conference room, and other ancillary structures for improved security service delivery. Awi Frey is Acting Managing Director of Anglo-Gold Ashanti Ghana Limited.
Anglo-Gold Ashanti's decision to provide an infrastructure to house the Obuasi District Police Headquarters was born out of the need identified through our regular strategic engagements with the security agencies. The infrastructure constructed through the contract of an Obuasi-based construction company, Kenza. We are optimistic that it will undoubtedly provide a benefit office premise for the Obuasi District Police Command and will ultimately not only enhance law enforcement efforts but also contribute to the overall well-being of our communities.
Committed to revamping the once vibrant mining community, the project forms part of the mine's 10-year socio-economic development agenda beginning in 2022. Senior Manager of Community Relations for Africa at AGA, Emmanuel Bedu, elaborated the essentiality of security in fostering development.
We believe security, the safety and security of the people is critical for a sustainable peace, which is a critical ingredient for sustainable development as well. And AngloGold Ashanti has demonstrated a huge commitment to the development of Obuasi. And we can never achieve sustainable development without investing in security. And so it is very well known that in the last couple of years, we have worked in close collaboration with the security agencies in Obuasi.
Ashanti South Commander of the Ghana Police Service, ACP George Ankuma, admonished residents to report criminal activities to law enforcement agencies as he cautioned against taking the law into their own hands.
This will go a long way to reduce crime, respond quickly to crime scenes, and will improve the security situations in the area. I want to assure management that so far as I remain the Ashanti South Regional Commander, the police will use the burden for the purpose for which it was put up. Now the police are just by your doorsteps. You must liaise with them and accord them the necessary recognition, respect, and report all criminal cases to them for investigation, instead of taking the law into your own hands.
To complement the logistical support to safeguard residents, AngloGold has rolled out a community safety and security program which has contributed to road accident reductions in Obuasi. For Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweko.
And that's it for this segment. The news returns after the break.
And as I wrap up the bulletin this morning, my name is Aisha Ibrahim. Log on to myjoyonline.com. There's more of the news and updates of all the developing stories, including e-levy generated 1.18 billion cedis in 2023. That's according to Deputy Finance Minister. See you again at 12.